Emily Carr, Chief Counsel, General Counsel, excuse me. They might be Chief Counsel as well. Department of Corrections. Emily, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me. Emily Carr, General Counsel, Vermont Department of Corrections. I believe a few of my colleagues testified a few weeks ago on this bill, and I can answer any questions for you, but I don't have anything new to add. We're just closing a loophole when it comes to the Prison Rape Elimination Act. We believe the law should be consistent with the federal standards. And also, it appears that, I don't know if we were forgotten or overlooked, but last year when you changed the law for law enforcement officers, that's exactly what we're looking for, is just to be consistent with law enforcement officers.
Did you hear Marshal Paul's concerns about the bill? The defender?
I heard his concern with regard to the correctional officers portion of it, which was concerns that many people have raised. It's just the messiness of having the multiple definitions, but I think this is the right here, right now fix, and y'all can take streamlining the definitions at a later time. But if we want to get this passed in this session, I think this is the best way to do it.
I am inclined to agree, and I was one of the ones that sort of pointed to the need for a more overarching long-term solution for the first ed messiness.
Yes, and I believe that was pointed out in House Judiciary as well.
So you're comfortable?
Yes.
Any other questions for Emily? Mike, I appreciate that. I guess we're pretty well, it's not that complex actually, because we've done it for other law enforcement officials. So why don't we go to, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Why don't we go to Marcy Hamrick, who has a written.
It's 2 pages actually.
Thank you, Marcy. Welcome to the Senate Judiciary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you've ever met any of us. Dick Sears from Bennington County and the town of Wilmington.
So nice to meet you.
Londonderry and a bunch of other communities. Senator.
Thank you so much.
From Windham County. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
County, also the town of Elberg, which is in the county of Grand Isle.
Senator
Happy to meet you.
And I represent Chittenden Central District, which is.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Senator Baruth is not here right now, but he is a member of the committee and represents Chittenden Central. Okay, go ahead, Marcy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak on H694. I'm Dr. Marcy Hamrick, the Director of Research and Programs in Child Sexual Abuse Prevention for Prevent Child Abuse Vermont. So because the mission of Prevent Child Abuse Vermont is to eliminate child abuse, I will constrain my comments to the segment of the bill that addresses conduct by an adult in a position of power over a minor. We do support the broadening from the terminology sexual act to a broader range of sexual conduct as defined by Section 2821. This will better protect children from all forms of sexual abuse and leave no room for loopholes by which a perpetrator could escape justice. Research has clearly demonstrated that sexual abuse of a child includes a range of behaviors that aren't entirely captured in the narrow language of sexual act, and that the lifelong trauma of those various types of conducts of sexual abuse has consequences in health and mental health that last throughout the life course. So we definitely are in support of expanding this to better protect children. And if you have any questions for me, I'm available.
I get, and I probably should know the answer to this, but when we talk about lifelong trauma, it's easy to just pass over it, but what are some of the kinds of the ways that it manifests itself in behavior, both as adolescents and then as adults? And how do we deal with that?
And so we do have evidence from the research that's been replicated multiple times that children and into their adult life experience things such as depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation. Those are the ones that I think we gravitate towards the most. But the ACEs study about adverse childhood experiences found that child sexual abuse is one of the ACEs that's rarely by itself. In other words, it's very frequently paired with other forms of abuse, and that combination leads to some health conditions that we wouldn't think of, like obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. So these are some very concerning pieces. And I think you were getting at adolescent behavior, which I can speak to as well. The vast majority of children who experience sexual abuse never go on to sexually harm another. However, research has found that among men who are incarcerated for having been convicted of child sexual abuse of a child, a great majority of those individuals were sexually abused themselves as children. So it can affect one's conduct towards children in adulthood.
When particularly the female population in our prisons, it appears that a large, perhaps even the majority of them have been sexually assaulted.
Sorry, your voice is not quite picking up for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. It appears that many of the current inmates in our women's correctional facilities have had some form of sexual, either rape as adults or as children have been sexually molested. Is that?
I agree. And this is borne out in the research that oftentimes women who were sexually abused as children will experience things like substance use disorder, which can lead to crossing boundaries with the law. Additionally, we find that women who are child abuse survivors of sexual abuse oftentimes get into intimate partnerships in which they are also sexually abused and assaulted.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Marcy? Marcy, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Michelle, do you want to join us? Can I have the statement?
I don't see.
That's in the drawer.
It's in the drawer.
Oh, yeah.
Ben just.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. All right. So, pretty straightforward bill. It only affects. Is there any changes or anything anybody wants to discuss? Senator Dawson.
I'm perfectly happy to move this as is. The only thing that we talked about, or I talked about briefly, that sort of gave me pause was sort of other settings where someone is held involuntarily where a ban would not apply. And one of the pieces I brought up was the Brattleboro retreat, for example, or an involuntary mental health hold. And so whether we do it here or come back for it at some other point, I do think there may need to be some expansion of when someone is in any type of custody, regardless of who, that this type of.
I think that's already, my recollection is we did that a few years back. Kids that are in programs for like DCF or mental health. Aren't you covered? I mean, I always thought I was when I worked in 204 by any law.
Well, I think you would be covered by the sexual exploitation if we're talking about a minor. I think you were talking more about someone who is an adult.
Yes.
Who is in a kind of
an involuntary sort of
custodial
setting that is not
right. But I don't know, I don't have any experience on the side around, with regard to someone who was involuntarily committed or how that plays out.
Right.
Thank you, Senator. As the Policy Director for Department of Corrections, thank you, Senator. I can also point to Korea. I can't speak to federal law, but the prison regulation in that federal law does apply to all confinement settings in the United States. So, this bill obviously fits the need that we're looking for the Department of Corrections to create that congruency with Korea. But just wanted to point that out, that federal law does extend. However, of course, Korea does delegate enforcement authority to the states.
Is the same true of residents of the state hospital, Brattleboro Retreat, etc.? Do they come under something similar to this, or is there a loophole?
I don't know about people who are in the kind of mental health confinement setting, because I'm just not familiar, so I think you need to speak to maybe Katie or I can check with Eric or.
Check on that. We can always do it in the miscellaneous judiciary bill.
Yeah, and the fact that PREA covers those spaces and we're aligning this aspect of state law with that federal law, it feels like it would make sense to align all aspects of state law with that federal law.
You do have the crime of, I think, sexual abuse of a vulnerable adult. So it might be, I'm just not sure, not knowing the healthcare law.
Let's have them just check with Katie, and if they feel they're already covered. Because you're in a position of power. So, and you're a worker at the Brattleboro Retreat. Are you covered by similar law? That's the question.
Yeah. Okay. And like I said, I don't feel strongly that I need to hold this up today to do that, but I would.
Well, we do have a miscellaneous.
Exactly.
So I did draft an amendment for this, but I didn't send it to Ben just because I had sent it out to Judge Zoney just a little bit earlier this morning about that you had mentioned at the last hearing about having the Sentencing Commission look at some of the definitions in chapters 59, which is lewdness, 64, which is sexual exploitation of a child, and 72, which is sexual assault. So, we're pulling the sexual act definition from chapter 72, but we're not using the sexual conduct definition, and we're using a different definition of sexual conduct that is in chapter 64. And I know folks have raised this for you in two bills. And so, so I do have language. If Ben, if you want me to send me a Zoom link, I can pop it up if you want to look at it now. I didn't know that you were going to vote it this morning.
I don't think we've heard back from Judge Zoney yet.
No, and to be fair, I just sent it like not even an hour ago. So
this is that sort of first step in cleaning up.
Yeah, just for the Sentencing Commission to take a look.
I've not heard testimony. I think the commission can address it. I do have two questions. The draft identifies it is for the purpose of modernizing and harmonizing definitions there using chapters. I understand the harmonizing, but I'm not necessarily sure it was intended the term modernizing. I have an idea, but suspect others may have different ideas.
I was just trying to pick something, and I was thinking about how when you were doing the parentage laws, part of that was just kind of, because some of the definitions are a bit old in these chapters.
And he'd like to have it, the draft has the report being filed by June 30th, 2024. He'd prefer.
I meant 2025.
Okay, well, he'd prefer it in December of 2025.
I put that there because I think that they're due this
December 2024.
Oh, okay. All right. I just wanted to give them plenty of time because I know they don't meet frequently. But
December 2024, give time to introduce legislation.
Okay, sure. I just was trying to get in under the gate before they sunset. Ben, are you going to send me a link?
I just did. Do you not get it?
Oh,
I can try it.
no, I got it. Thank you.
If they say they can get it done quicker, I say go for it.
you are our co-host. You can share and your work.
Thank you.
Okay, so all this does, you'll see, is it simply adds, and I haven't had it corrected or anything, but adds a new section so that the Vermont Sentencing Commission shall review the definitions in those 3 chapters for, and I said, for the purpose of modernizing and harmonizing, whatever y'all want to say there. I was just trying to kind of capture that,
Well, maybe
something. Updating.
Rather than modernizing.
And
If somebody else has a better word, I'm fine.
we've just used modernizing before when you've got kind of old definitions, but I can say updating. And then I mentioned in particular those 2 definitions that, have been the subject of debate this year in a variety of bills. And I didn't mean to be 294. So I'll do, you know what, do you want me to check with them to see if you'd rather have until, I meant that to be June of 2025, but do you want me, I just wasn't sure.
December of 2024.
Oh, okay.
So it's ready for the December.
Right, I just wasn't sure,
Be
because
ready
I
to
know the
discuss
statute said
next
something like they
session.
meet quarterly. I just wasn't sure if they would.
Well, he said
Okay.
here, rather it can be filed before the next 2025 session, December, so I'm assuming that's December 1st, 2024 would be probably the appropriate
Okay.
date.
All right.
What's the deadline for legislation? There is none.
It'll be the first year of the biennium, so you'll have plenty of time.
Yeah, so if there is a bill, then it can be introduced.
Okay.
Assuming somebody's still running.
I imagine at least a few of us will return.
I'm still in the decision making mode.
And you want me to change modernizing to updating?
Yeah, I
Okay.
suppose it might be.
Okay.
If somebody else has a better word, I'm fine with that.
It seems perfectly reasonable. I think it gets at what we need it to get at. I don't know that it needs to be the perfect word. I don't know.
And I think the party, the folks who are involved in this are understanding kind of.
Yeah, it's getting it updated.
Right. So if you did want to vote it today and you wanted to vote it just with this one small amendment, you can vote it with this amendment and I can just have it checked by the editors. Do you want to go back through the bill or everybody's good?
I think everybody should read the
Okay.
body of the bill.
Okay.
Or I don't know if everybody. I haven't heard the other. So why don't we see if we can get Senator Baru.
And then do you want me to fill you in on the 2 bills that the House just passed of yours while we're waiting for Senator Baru?
Yes, you could.
So yesterday, S-190, which was your bill with regard to hearsay statements and depositions involving a child who has been the victim of cruelty to a child and suffered serious bodily injury. They passed that as the Senate version, so no changes at all to that. So that was yesterday. And I think was it yesterday or the day before? Sorry, it's all this floor time starting to bleed together for me. It's like a, but they also passed S-278, and I can pop that up for you so you can take a look, because they do have an amendment, but it is strictly technical, and it's something that, just in talking with the attorneys involved, we made some little language tweaks to it, but it does not change it substantively.
Thank you. So it's just a technical amendment.
Yes, and I can pop that up for you if you'd like me to.
First, Senator,
I was just checking to make sure I knew what bill we were talking about.
Yes, comparative
negligence.
negligence.
Yeah.
And Senator Norris's bill didn't get any changes, so.
Right, so I was just filling everybody in on
So, yeah,
S 190, the House passed the Senate version, so
Oh,
no
great,
changes
perfect
to
bill.
that on the hearsay and deposition bill. And then on comparative negligence, so I thought we were, fixing, something in,
We struck out contribute to it,
right, that's not.
and they put it
that's
back
right,
in.
That's not the right one. Right,
So that's not what we did.
well,
they did.
right, hold on a second, I pulled up the wrong
Well,
version.
why don't we vote on the bill?
Yeah, go ahead
first?
and vote on that one.
That's 694. So 694 has an amendment from us that would have the sentencing commission look at updating and harmonizing the laws regarding sexual exploitation and sexual assault. Right?
Yes.
And this has to do with corrections officers or corrections employees. And it's done similar to law enforcement officers we did in the past. So is there any further discussion on H694?
And also, Senator Booth, there's an amendment that you guys are gonna vote on, which is just directing the sentencing commission.
Yeah.
Right, that was it.
We haven't seen the text of that.
Yes, I just went through it. Do you want?
I'm fine if everybody's seen it.
Good. So, is there a motion to report favorably as amended?
I move that we report H694 favorably as amended by the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Is there any further discussion from anybody in the room or anybody on the committee? Hearing none? Ben, could you please call the roll?
Again, Senator Booth,
Yes.
Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Rohowski.
Yes.
Senator Sheen.
Yes.
And Senator Sears.
Yes. 5-0. So, who would like to report?
I'm happy to do it.
Senator Bowski, the bill. Once Michelle has the amendment edited, you can take it up.
Sounds good.
Michelle, what draft would this be?
It'll be 1.1 for the amendment. So what I have up on the screen now is what is the House proposal of amendment to the Senate on 278 on comparative negligence. And as I said, it's only just some technical language tweaks. Is in the Senate version, you'll recall, there was the current statute is titled comparative negligence, and but it's kind of awkwardly written, hasn't been amended since it was enacted in 1970, and it's titled comparative negligence, but then it talks about contributory negligence and then carves out this modified comparative negligence standard for death, personal injury, or property damage. And so this is just clarifying a little bit that this is talking about just generally contributory and comparative negligence. I think in your version, I had struck out comparative and put I'm sorry, on subsection A, I struck out contributory and put comparative negligence. So this is more accurate, and that's the only change other than in subsection B, we just clarified that contributory and comparative negligence are prohibited. So I think that that's what was intended anyway, but we're just being very clear since the statute is dealing with both. And so remember, contributory means like if you're one drop responsible, it bars you from recovery. Comparative, what we have, which is modified comparative, is that as long as you are 50% or less, and you're saying neither one of those doctrines apply to these types of cases. So again, I don't see it as any kind of substantive change. I think it was just.
This is Tanya's book,
Yes.
not Senator Sheen's hearsay.
Yes.
So this is your negligence claim relating to sexual act, and where we make it so that I had the wrong bill in my head.
Well, we had just talked about 190, so.
Right,
Yeah.
and so this is where we make clear that you can't, just because the victim wore a short skirt, you can't take $50,000 away from her settlement.
Yes.
Yes.
And this just, to me, makes it, the statute, the underlying statute was a little unclear, I recall, and I see this as just a clarifying, like, belts and suspenders, if you will.
Everybody okay with that change in the house? Good. Can you see if Damien will be ready around 10:15? Because we're done
We're done.
Nice.
until, so we take a break till 10:15. And then see if we can move clock 4 to 11.
Top floor is already at 11.
Huh?
Oh, it's at 10:45.
I mean, 10:45, yeah, 10:45, let's leave it there.
Okay.
Women's Correctional Facility. Now that we're off.